Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Chris, and I'm here with my co-host JP for another episode of the Success Agent, where we help real estate agents scale their business and not their staff through automation. And today we're going to be talking about negotiating with your skills and not your checkbook. I'm going to let JP take the lead on this one. JP, why don't you just go for it?
Yeah, so essentially there's something that happens in real estate and you're in a tough negotiation, you're working with the buyer, you're working with the seller, and you get to a sticking point in the negotiations where, you might be a few $1,000s away from getting a deal done.
Right.
And so what happens sometimes is that the agents get a little bit overly involved as if they're doing the negotiations themselves. And
Mhm.
as put it in perspective, so I'm working with a seller. Let's say you're working with a buyer,
Okay.
and my house has been on the market for a while. You bring me a buyer. We're starting to negotiate this deal. We get down to where, and let's say we're overpriced a little bit, and then you bring me an offer, and then let's say the uh,
I think I might have lost you, bud.
then now we're trying to still try to keep this deal together. We're $10,000 or $15,000 below the list price. There might be some closing costs in there, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And then now we're like, as the sellers, we're like, nope, we're not going any lower. And then let's say your buyers are like, well, if you can just come down to, a couple more $1,000, then we can put this deal together. So then what'll happen is then the agents will decide to maybe cut their commission a little bit to make
Mhm.
up the difference for that $2,000.
Right.
So the question comes down to is, are we having the tough conversations with our sellers,
Yeah.
or are we just taking the easy road and saying, well, if we just cut our commission and so we can get the deal done? Because let's say there's a domino effect, there's other houses, so like the seller wants to buy now.
Right.
But what we don't know is if we go from the sale to the buy, and let's say that buyer, that seller wants to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what are our sellers and our buyers, what are they paying us for? Are they paying us for our skills, or are they paying us our abilities to just work for less and less and less and less?
Right.
Because we're doing ourselves a disservice by resorting to just working for less rather than they're paying us for our skills. They're paying us for our
Right.
ability to help them negotiate. What direction are they going in? Having tough conversations and saying, what is it that you really want? Do you really want to, is it that you want to save 2000, or that you want to move on with your life?
Mm-hmm.
The house has been on the market for a while. Like, we got to get real. Like, we need to come down to, is it really worth it to um to lose a deal, especially if your house has been on the market, and then have to pay 2 or 3 more months? Because if you're on the market for 2 or 3 more months, that little difference could be made up by selling today rather than sitting it on the market for 2 or 3 more months.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to give ourselves as agents the respect that we deserve, because we've been with them, we've been holding their hand, we've been having the tough conversations, we're doing the price reductions, we're doing all this stuff, and now we're getting to a point where we've got an offer on the table. Like, let's just figure out how to get it done, instead of me having to resort to paying you back when I haven't gotten paid yet. And
Right.
this is the thing, like, real estate agents don't get paid until the deal closes, you know? And so we're already providing a free service
Mm-hmm.
up until the point where now we get to negotiate, and you can see how we work. You get to see how up to this point, we've marketed your home, we've done the open houses, we put it in the newspaper, we put it in the magazine, we've run around town, We're telling everybody that we see about it. We've done the Facebook ads that we've already paid for before we got paid from the deal. We're doing the videos. We've done the 3D tours. We've done all this stuff in hopes that we get it sold. We try to lay that foundation up until the point of closing. And then we disrespect ourselves by saying, and then on top of that, I'm going to work for even less because I know you're going to buy another house from me.
Right.
Even though I don't even know what house it is. And I don't even know if we're going to have to do the same thing on that one.
Exactly.
You know, in what other industry, right? You say, hey, so let's say I'm a doctor, right?
Yeah.
You come in and you got a problem. You need some medicine, right? And I say, oh, so you've got extreme back pain, right? And you said, oh, you've been taking like a certain type of medication that really reduces the inflammation and stuff. And then I say, well, you know, in order for me to help you out, I got to give you ibuprofen instead. I know you're paid me for all my skills. I've diagnosed it that you absolutely have to have this medicine, right? But for me to help you and you help me, I got to give you ibuprofen instead because I can't, you know, I can give you my full knowledge of my skills, but I can't give you everything that you need because when it comes right down to the very end, I have to give you this other stuff, this ibuprofen, because, you know, that's where we've come into our negotiations in terms of your pain. You know, I would love to go all the way with you, but, you know, since you're not working with me, then I can't work with you. So I have to give you ibuprofen instead of the, you know, whatever it is, the Oxycontin or whatever it is that you know, to take care of all of your pain.
Right.
You know, where it should be is, I really appreciate that you've worked up to this point. I really appreciate your skills and your knowledge and your abilities. I'm willing to just go ahead and let's just get this deal done. So I'm going to go ahead and pay for the Oxycontin or whatever it is that I need, the painkiller that I absolutely have to have in order to move on. That way, the pain's gone away. I'm done with it. I can move on. You know, maybe I can go running next week now because I've gotten the stuff that I absolutely have to have. And that's kind of where we're at with real estate, where it's like, you get up to that point where you're like, I need the stuff that I absolutely need. Okay, well then just pay the $2,000 and let's go.
Right.
You know, instead of giving me ibuprofen, you know, because if I wanted ibuprofen, I would want ibuprofen service too. You know, no, I want the Oxycontin service. Like, give me the Oxycontin service. That's what I'm paying you for. You know?
Yeah, I think it's like kind of twofold here because the second you start cutting your commission, that is going to lower your confidence because you've already submitted to the idea that, you know, what you're doing is not worth what you originally were going to charge. So then, like you're saying, it's a domino effect. Like, oh, they want to go buy a house now, but I already said I would cut my commission by 0.5% or a whole percent, and they're just going to expect it again. And yeah, you got a double ender, kind of, but you can't provide the maximum service because you're not getting the maximum benefit out of it. So neither are they, you know? And there's another analogy kind of with what you're going forth with a doctor's, and I love this one. So like you go to the dentist, you got a toothache, right? And the dentist goes, okay, well that toothache's going to cost you $2,000 and it's going to take me 10 minutes. And you're like, oh man, why am I going to pay you $2,000 for 10 minutes of your time? And well, you know, the dentist be like, well, I can make it take an hour if you want. It's still going to cost $2,000. And it's like, at the end of the day, you just want the product or you want the end result and you want it done as quickly as possible, as painlessly as possible, and without any repercussions afterwards.
Right. Yeah. Cause the alternative is, okay, for $1,000, we can just let the tooth like decay for a few more months.
Right.
You know, maybe it'll fall out on his own.
Yeah.
You know, or would you rather just pay the $2,000 and be done? You know, because for your visitation today, it's going to cost you $1,000.
Right.
You know, so you've already paid for it. You know, and it's like, you know, so it's like you don't want to discount your skills and abilities by just, you know, folding over and saying, you know, because they've already agreed to pay you. They've agreed that this is the service you provide. So that really shouldn't be on the table at all. You know? At the end of the day, like they're paying for your skills and abilities at the rate that you're charging, because you're not going to go to an attorney. You're not going to say, hey, I want you to defend me in court but I want you to do a really, really, really good job if you could just do it for half price. Now that we've already agreed to this other price, I want you to give me the other one for a cheaper price.
Right.
Like, they're not going to fight for you as much
No.
if you're saying, hey, can we renegotiate this thing, even though I really, really want to win, but I really, really, really want a discount.
Well, if they're a good attorney, they're going to say no. Go to the guy across the street. He's half his price and has half as good results. That's what
Right,
you're
and he
paying
would
for.
have done that at the beginning.
Right.
At the very, very beginning, he would have had that conversation and say, this is my price because this is the service that I provide.
Uh-huh.
If you want the other guy, I can give you his number.
Yeah.
But then you're going to get the other guy's service too.
Right. So why do you think agents default to that then? Just to cutting their commissions, or
Sometimes it's just fatigue.
yeah.
Listing fatigue. Sometimes it's people result to that because they just want to be done. They just want to be done with the deal, and that's not really giving your client a good service. You're
Right.
taking them a disservice because now you've mentally checked out, not only mentally but financially, and that's not the right attitude to have. Is this like, I just want to be done attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to be all in, provide the service, show them the quality of your presentation, do the best you can at the rate that you've agreed to.
Right.
It's like if you worked an hourly job and then, like if you're a checker at Walmart and then you're like, hey, I've got 17 more clients, but these last 17 of the day, I want you to do for $2 an hour. Would you do that? Could you just do 17 more clients for $2 an hour? Because that's the only way we're going to get you out of here today. But you got to work these last two for $2 an hour. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to your client, because now the people going through the checkout are like, dude, what's your problem? Oh, my boss told me I got to do this one for $2 an hour. And you're just like, now you've done your company a disservice now.
Right.
Because now you've got this like very like disgruntled and displeased look on your face because now you've discounted your services.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, this was the rate we agreed to. You agreed to pay me $12 an hour. Now, why am I doing it for $2 an hour? Like, how is that fair?
Right. Yeah. And it's like a slippery slope too, because once you start doing that, as we already talked about, it can just keep happening over and over again. And I really think that would put you closer to burnout, even though, you're relieving yourself a little bit just that once, but then you keep doing it over and over, and you just get used to being paid less than, your counterparts. So then your service starts to, degrade.
And it's a bad habit to get into, because if you start getting into it's no longer about my skills, abilities, services, and marketing value.
It's about the cash.
It's just less. It's more about the dollar.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I closed a deal today with a client, and when I had my initial listing presentation and I laid out all of what we were going to do marketing wise and what we were doing in terms of service and what we were doing in terms of value and everything, and she was happy to pay it.
Right.
Yeah. And it went very, very smooth. We closed on time. Everything went really, really well, and she was happy at closing. She's like, I wish we had more agents like you that presented the value and didn't back down. Then, because now she's buying a house in another state, and they're like, yeah, they're not even nearly like organized as you guys are. It's just like, we got no timelines. We don't know what's going on. We signed papers, and now we don't know what's happening. And we're closing on Monday, and I still don't know what time we're closing. It's like, what? So it's like, you give the perceived value, and then you turn it into actionable value. And then at the end of the day, they're going to appreciate you for what you bring to the table, not just what discounts or what check you can write.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's like anything you get paid is a direct result of the value you've provided. So if you do a shitty job, you're probably, I know it's a little bit different because you negotiate up front with the contracts, but it works the same way too. But if you're going to say, hey, I'll do a 3% job, well, then you're going to give a 3% job, and that's just going to reek within your services.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you just give the actual value that they're looking for, they're going to end off better. You're going to end off better, and everyone's going to be a lot more satisfied. And hell, you could even try new things because you have that financial backing, and more importantly, the confidence to back your actions. You
I
know?
agree. Yeah, and like in one of my sales presentations I did, this is what we do, this is what the other guy does,
Yeah.
you know. And when they were done, they were just like, I said, really? And I said, yeah. He goes, but it was interesting because it was so much that he's just like, ugh, well, I don't want to use the other guy, but I don't want to use you because you're too high. And so he's like, I'll just try to see if I can do it myself,
Oh.
you know? And so but so he was just kind of like, I got to justify this in my mind. I got to be at a happy place to where I can
Mm-hmm.
justify this in my mind. You got to give me a month. You just got to give me a month. I'll call you. I'll let you know one way or another if we're going to do it. Cause he's like, cause his biggest fear was, well, if you list it and it goes the first day, you know, then what did you actually do to earn my business?
But isn't that the goal?
That is the goal. And that's the funny part. The funny part is like you present the information so that it's so overwhelming that they have no choice but to use you or sell it themselves.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But the problem is that, you know, and so I told him, I was like, well, think of it this way. If I hadn't told you what I was going to do to market your property,
Mm-hmm.
and it still sells the first day, at least you have the right expectations of what was going to happen. Whereas if I told you, you know, this is the rate and then no actionable items, and then it sells the same day, then you'd be disappointed, because then you're like, well, you didn't do anything to sell my house anyways.
Right.
Well, and it's because I did a disservice. I didn't give you the actionable items that were going to happen to get your house sold.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just said pay me with no actionable items, then of course you're going to feel disappointed. But you had the expectation of this is what was going to happen.
Right.
You know, like if I was at a basketball, you know, game, and I said these are the plays we're going to run, and then you won the game, or if the dude just jumps out there and shoots a three pointer, and you're like, what the hell just happened? You know, those are two different things. Like one has the
We might have lost you again, but
I would be happy that we won, but B, I'd be disappointed because you didn't listen.
right.
You know?
You have to repeat that because we just lost you. You went blank and paused.
Oh, did I? Did you hear me at
Yeah.
all?
Well, so where you were getting at, you
Oh,
were
I
like,
lost.
so,
Yeah, you're pausing out too.
can you see me now? Can you hear me at
Yeah,
least? All right. What you were
yeah,
saying was that, like, so you have a plan, you have your game plan, and you have all your plays, and everyone's ready to go out there, but then this random guy just shoots a three, and you're
yeah,
sitting there like, what just happened? That's where you got cut off.
yeah. So it's, as a coach, you know, you're going to be disappointed that, you know, you've had this plan. This was the play. This is what we were going to run, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just get some rogue basketball player. It's like, I got this, and shoots a three pointer.
Right.
Yeah, we still won, but I'd be disappointed because you didn't listen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there was no plan. You just ran out there and did it. And so, you know, it's the same thing as a seller. Like, I want to know what the plan is so I know what I'm paying for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas if I just have to cut you a check and I had no idea what the plan was, and then I have to write you a check, then it's kind of like upsetting because I had no idea what I'm even paying for.
Right.
You know.
Well, it kind of actually lends a hand to what, your coaching business too, because when agents come in to your business and you have a service package, you could just say, oh, well, this is going to be the end result, and I don't have a plan to get there. Or you can come in and say, nope, this is going to be week one, this is week two, this is week three, and you give them the expectations. The expectations are set, and it's still the same end result. They're going to have more confidence in that process because they know what's going on.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
and you know, with any good, you know, long-term plan, you got to have steps to get there.
Right.
It's not just, well, if you just put my face somewhere on your website, somehow I'm going to give you business. No,
Right.
like that doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what I'm paying for there, you know, unless you have a brand that just exudes, action. Like if I had something that said sponsored by Apple on my website, that's, you know, the name alone could get it done.
Sure.
Probably.
Doesn't matter how
I would
crappy the
hope so.
product is. Right. Yeah. They've worked pretty
But
hard for that though, through actionable items and
yeah,
value.
yeah. But it took a long time to get to there where that just the brand alone carries its own weight.
Yeah.
Whereas, there's not a coach out there that I'm aware of that can just by their brand alone can grow your business. Even
Yeah.
Buffini, even having Buffini somewhere on your website wouldn't get it done. And he's very well known. Tom Ferry, any of those guys, like their name by themselves only means something within the real estate world. Outside of the real estate world, people are like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. So
Right.
that's not going to attract enough, that there's not enough weight in that. So even they have to coach and
Mhm.
train and show
Mhm.
you the actionable items in order to get to where you need to get to. So,
So speaking of actionable items, what is something that so I'm sure a lot of agents probably face this in their daily life. They just want to get the deal done. They want to bring home the commission, and they think, hey, I guess I have to cut my commission to at least get something. What are some actionable items that people can take to not only stop that thought process, but just revert their current actions, just change what they're doing to actually get headed in the right direction?
well, I mean, the first one is just conceive what your worth is.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean by that?
Oh, I lost you.
Oh, this is so frustrating.
Oh, you're back.
So what do you mean by that? By conceive what your worth is?
So conceiving your worth. So, you know, that there's value in what you have to say. There's
Uh,
value in, you know, respecting yourself enough as a business person and as an agent to give value back to your client.
mhm.
They're asking you, they already know what your rate is, so that should be a non-issue.
Right.
So now it's okay. So now that we're within $2,000 of getting the deal done. So what is it that you absolutely need versus want, because those are two different things,
Hmm.
in order to move forward? Is it time? Is it money? Is it stress? Is it frustration? You know, do you have a goal? Like, do you want to get on with your life, or do you want to hold on to $2,000? Can you visualize yourself in your new home, or do you want to stay in your old one?
Right.
At the end of the day, like, unless you're going into debt in order to sell your house, which that's a totally different conversation,
Hmm.
then what are we talking about right now? Like, let's
Hmm.
just get it done and move on. Like, at the
Right.
end of the day, like, our job is to get you an offer. We got one, you know? And
Yeah.
not only that, but this is just the beginning. There are other things to negotiate. We still have the repairs. We still have the lender appraisal. These are other roadblocks in the way of getting to the end result. So, what is it that you want to do in taking the whole money thing off the table?
Hmm.
you know I mean, there are circumstances where you absolutely, you just get stuck in a position where you might have to negotiate some commissions just because there's a circumstance that just has to, that it can't be moved unless there's some motivation on both sides.
Right.
um, but a lot of times, like, you know there's variables, like there's some closing costs or whatever the case may be, where if the buyer really wants to buy the house and they see the value in that, raise the price by a couple $1,000s and let's just come to a happy medium to get it done.
Hmm.
Rather than saying, oh, well, we just need to work less. And I'm like, well, we up until this point, we've used all of our resources to generate this offer.
Right.
No.
Right.
And so now we're saying, now we're just going to do it for less money because. And
Hmm.
that's the wrong attitude to have. I think really it just comes down to, what is your self-worth? What is it that you have to say that adds value? um oh, I lost you again.
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Did I lose you for real? Ah, man. Yep.
Okay, you're back.
Well, man, I don't know what's going on, but we'll just finish it up.
Yeah,
So,
so just the last thing I wanted to say was, I would say see what your self-worth is.
yeah,
And then probably the second thing, probably one of the more important ones is just role play this out with other agents in your office. Because this is not going
yeah.
to be the first time and it's not going to be the last time you're going to have this conversation about, why don't you just cut your commission so that we can get what we need to net? And it's like, well, is it fair to me? Like I had this happen to me one time where we got basically the most perfect offer they could get, except for the price was a little bit low, and they're saying, hey, why don't you cut your commission so we can net what we need to net,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I had the conversation with them, is like, is it fair to me that I've marketed, that I've taken time out of my day, I've done open houses, I've driven out in the country, I've done all these things for me to just discount my commission just so that you can get your house closed at the price that you
Mm-hmm.
want,
Right.
And so, there's different circumstances like that all the time that pop up, and it's just like, you got to know what to say, how to present it in a way that you're not being rude or, trying to disrespect them or anything like that. But it's like, we're a marketing firm. I mean, people don't understand that when you're in real estate, you're a marketing agency.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. You
Right.
market, you get property out there, you get everybody to see it, and that costs money,
Uh-huh.
And so, basically what you're saying is, I'm going to do all that stuff for even more for free, because you do it all for free in the beginning. Then you're going to do it even more for free or for less.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can get more, if that's even possible, but still.
Right.
Free with consequences, I guess. I don't know. But the reality of it is that you've got to be able to have tough adult conversations
Mm-hmm.
in order to achieve the result that you want. And it comes back to having the conversation and knowing what you're worth. If you're worth it for every time some bump in the road comes up, you just give away money, then you can be the giveaway money client, and you're going to be broke.
Right.
Be the giveaway broke client too, or the broke agent.
Uh-huh.
We would change our name to broke agent, and then
Do all the things you're not supposed to do.
yeah, all the things you're not supposed to do, and then you stay broke.
Cool, man. Well, I'm sure this is obviously probably something that you cover in your training program. Why don't you give people a little bit more insight onto what that looks like, how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so if you want to get a hold of me, you can PM me on Facebook at JP's real estate page. You can text me directly, 307-772-1184. You can email me at james.fluellen.com, or you can reach me on Twitter at YOHomes. So all of those places. I'm also if you really can't find me anywhere, just Google JP Fluellen. I think I'm like one of 3 in the whole United States of America. So
That's higher than I would expect.
You have no excuse not to find me. So you can set up a 30-minute coaching call with me for free, and that's it.
Awesome, guys. And if you want to reach out to me, you can just ping me on this page on Success Agents. It's facebook.com/agents automated. You can also private message me, just Chris Parsons. I think it's CK Parsons. Email chris@insynqk. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Success Agents.
Awesome.
See you later, man.